Hello. Happy Thursday, the 27th, 2025. It is Thanksgiving Day today. I am here to do a quick report over the week, but I did want to mention what the planets are doing for today is pretty important because Saturn is going direct tonight, while we're visiting with our families and interacting with literally our ancestry, our karmic reason why we're here on this beautiful Thanksgiving Day this year, 2025. It's very synchronous. It really is. I think that it is a good day to get real. you know, Saturn going back into Pisces has been really dreamy and a little bit lost, but it's okay because sometimes when you get lost, you understand where you're found. It's a strange paradox of sorts. And so it's an interesting journey we've been taking today because it's becoming evening right now here in the Pacific, and there are people already interacting, having dinner, and we're all experiencing a bit of a heart opening today, probably. Something that was kind of unexpected if you're doing the work. It's a good day for Saturn to be going direct, for the moon to be going into Pisces, and having the first square to the sun with the moon. And, there's a lot of squares happening with the moon today, with Venus and Uranus, and with the sun. But sometimes squares lead to action. Sometimes squares, it's like it leads to a resolve. Whereas sometimes like trines and stuff, it just doesn't push you there, it doesn't get you there. So sometimes you need that, most definitely, you always need that square to move you when it comes to astrology and the timing of things. So let's pull up the chart and start looking. So here I have the chart set up so before the moon goes into Pisces, because the first aspect that the moon was making early this morning is on a square to Venus in Scorpio. So square, Venus is in Scorpio, and the moon is in Aquarius, the two fixed signs, and the square uh, is making you think about your values. Now, with um, Venus has been in Scorpio, and the square, because it does involve where Saturn is. It's in a trine. Venus is in a trine to where Saturn is. And so, with the moon adding another aspect, we're adding more of a harder edge. So we're adding that square to that trine. And instead of it being something that's just easily looked over, the moon brings up a good point with the aspect that it's making to Venus also. Um, and this point is like questioning what your values have been changing to, because Venus is in the sign that Pluto rules, and the moon is in the sign that Pluto is in. So there's been some exploration, with the moon in Aquarius for a few days now, because we've been preparing and getting ready to be with our families, or getting ready to, there's a lot of preparation that comes to Thanksgiving, whether it is preparing the meal, preparing your home, and all that stuff, right? This is the realm of the moon. And there's also preparing your emotional self, because sometimes family is quite triggering. And so there's been a goal here. Um, Venus has a goal of transforming your values. Um, the sign of Scorpio is transformation, and Venus is really about your values. And this connection that's making early this morning, and it's really because of Thanksgiving Day and all of the momentum that is put on it in our culture. This, I'm going to say pressure, but yeah, pressure, but it's also um, like just an event that every year when it comes around, there's a chance for something with regards to home and family and ancestry. And in this year, it's special with Jupiter being in Cancer. So, uh, so this first aspect that the moon was making in a square, um, and a little bit later on, the moon makes a square with Uranus, which is the ruler of the sign that the moon is in, and the ruler of the sign that Pluto is in. So there's been all kinds of pull for transforming your values, transforming your karmic bind to family. A lot of transformation. The momentum that Scorpio season had was really about getting you to look at how you can transform. Uh, what kind of magical transformation did you make during Scorpio season? And that transformation is being translated by Venus right now, remaining in Scorpio, and with Mercury also retrograding through Scorpio. And so the transformation isn't over yet, but the seed was planted and the gears are turning. And so, yeah, so a little bit later on in the morning, the moon squares Uranus just before going into Pisces. And then let's see, move the moon. After the sun comes up, the moon is making a square to Uranus. And so maybe there was something spontaneous, something that you just didn't expect coming through to try to help. Hopefully it was not something disruptive. But that could have been the what happens also is that it could have been something disruptive happening and it's trying to wake you up, um, if that's the case. So when the moon moves into Pisces, um, there is a different feeling coming over us, and it is very nostalgic. Very. Um, and what's interesting about this nostalgia is that just yesterday, we had the newest episodes of Stranger Things come out, and that was very nostalgic. I really enjoyed watching it. Um, the 4 episodes that got released, and that's been kind of like me just enjoying things. I don't typically watch TV, and so when I do that, it's like, like really letting go. And the moon going into Pisces today felt like I just need to do nothing. Which is kind of the opposite of what a lot of people are doing on today. And so I'm hoping that people can find a moment of surrender, a little bit of something to relax. And, I laugh because also the moon going into Pisces is about like losing boundaries, and for some people, Thanksgiving is a ritual of losing inhibitions. And if that's the case, well, that's very much supported. And whatever comes of it is going to be your own consequence, right? And so it's just interesting. So we move through the day after the moon goes into Pisces, and in the evening at 7, almost 8 o'clock, um, Pacific, Saturn is stationing direct, finally. And Saturn will be moving out of Pisces after a little while. But the stationing direct is going to make something become real. And that's what I guess like I'm talking about with regards to your consequences. So, I mean, that could just be like having a hangover, right? After your ritual of losing your inhibitions. So, just be mindful of your choices because there are consequences. And Saturn is really signifying that. Saturn in Pisces is um, like try to make something real out of something that's unreal, bringing something back through the veil, So while Saturn has been going retrograde back into Pisces from Aries, there may have been a noticeable shift of something that felt like you were having memories come back, uh, working through some old things, old karmic things. And as Saturn goes direct and comes out of Pisces again, you'll be bringing something with you on that journey. Saturn will be helping you bring something that you learned, uh, some like lesson and that you worked hard to learn, um, you know, more like earned, right? The Saturn is about how the work that we do and how we earn things. And one of the reasons why I keep saying that if we've been doing the work, there are gifts is because Saturn has been really making us work for it. Really. It's been a lot of hard work. And so if you've been hanging in there and not giving up on like spiritual goals, uh, health goals, mental health goals. These are all things that are like Piscean. Uh, then there'll be hard-earned rewards coming, and Saturn will be eventually moving past Neptune again. And that meeting that people are keep already, they're already talking about it again with Saturn and Neptune meeting at 0 degrees Aries. It's going to be a big moment or a gift, a realization, an awakening that you've been working towards. It may not be instantaneous, but it's like the package is on the way, you know. Saturn always delivers for those who have earned and worked hard and earned the thing. So it is something, and all of this just on Thanksgiving. It's a good day, ultimately for Thanksgiving Day because um, we're all meant to be moving through this time together. We're all meant to be working through these challenges also with Mars. Mars and Black Moon Lilith conjunct here in Sagittarius. There might be some fire, with the sun in Sagittarius, but the sun is always in Sagittarius every year for Thanksgiving. And, this is one of the reasons why um, Thanksgiving is in Sagittarius season. It's about abundance, and it's not really a surprise that it is a large, very, very large meal. It's kind of unnecessarily large. We eat a lot. It's kind of like we're treating ourselves. We're all the kings and queens, and that is really like the spirit of Thanksgiving, um, which I think is interesting. Let's see. Um, So it is running in the background. Okay. All right. Technical things. All right. So today, Thanksgiving, um, I hope that ultimately it's an enjoyable day. There's a lot of hard work that's going into making today okay to like learn about our family, learn about ourselves. Um, and there's more to come because, Christmas is next on the list. And that's just more family stuff and leading up to winter solstice. Um, so let's see. Friday. On Friday, the main event is the moon squaring Mars. The moon squaring Mars is also squaring Black Moon Lilith because they're conjunct. And that's what I'm saying, like, there could be some, the cleanup or the messy conflict, um, cleanup phase. That's square. It's driving you to action for some reason. And Mars and Black Moon Lilith are a little bit messy. Mars might be prodding Black Moon Lilith to feel more rage than normal. But if you are tapping into that rage, um, try to see where it takes you in a deeper way. Look into it deeper and see what you're supposed to be learning from it because Mars and Black Moon Lilith are in Sagittarius, and so there is wisdom in this, like, you know, messy emotional arrangement. Um, Black Moon Lilith and Mars probably don't really get along because of the repressed feminine aspect to Black Moon Lilith, and the expressed masculine element of Mars. And so there's probably a little push and pull, a tug, and it could just be inside of you too, because it's in a square with the moon. And the moon sometimes can just be about an internal state of mind. Or, I mean, an internal feeling, not even really a state of mind, but a feeling. And after all of the excitement and whatever went down, whatever goes down today on Thanksgiving will make you feel a certain way on Friday. And, you may have had to push some stuff down in order to get along and, just have that family meeting. Or maybe there was things that came out and um, and it's just continuing to make you feel a certain way. The moon in Pisces can, be a little bit idealistic, and that's kind of where the pain comes from. And the pain is wishing that something was different than what it really is. And so maybe those are the things that start coming up after um like a kind of like a slow family trigger, you know, nothing explosive happened, but you're in a state of sort of like depression afterwards, especially with the moon coming up on Saturn. So the moon conjunct Saturn, um, technically on Saturday. So go back just a little bit. Mm, it happens like in the morning. The moon and Saturn are conjunct, with the moon in between Saturn and Neptune here in Pisces. That feeling that, you wish something was different, that could be quite painful. Um, you know, being in a dream state. And um, Saturn going direct in Pisces should be a little bit helpful uh, with that dreamy thing, but it is going to bring up feelings, a little bit of a depressed feeling. Excuse me. And let's see, Mercury is stationing to go direct on Saturday. Yay! And so finally, at 20 degrees Scorpio, Mercury will be going direct again. And we'll be going back over all the planets that again. And this is why we're gonna be like revisiting certain themes again, things that came up during the retrograde. Um, will need some kind of resolve. And I know a few people who have had really intense Mercury retrogrades. Holy cow. I am kind of shocked, actually. I knew that this was going to be a very intense Mercury retrograde already, but to see the proof come in, it was like mind blowing, I guess. Uh, yeah, I'm grateful that out of the people who I know that had really rough Mercury retrogrades, I'm glad that they're okay ultimately. But I know that they all have things that they have to deal with still that are still going on because of that. And like, whoa, you know? Um, so on Saturday, the moon conjuncts Saturn before going into Aries later on that day. Mercury goes direct, and it looks like Venus is opposing Uranus before going into Sagittarius. Wow, a lot going on Saturday. It just seems like this holiday season is just like accelerating in a way that's it's been a while since I've felt a holiday season this way. And I feel like it has a lot to do with these planetary alignments, because once Mercury starts actually moving forward again, Mercury's going to conjunct Venus, the Sun, Black Moon Lilith, and then Mars again. And we had some crazy stuff happen when Mars and Mercury were conjunct before, and um, so it'll be happening again. But I believe that they both move into Capricorn before that happens. And so it's just a very tight, all the planets are tight, all the personal planets, very tight. And so it's like each sign these planets are going through has a very intense lesson for all of us personally. And that's one of the things about 2025 that's why 2025 has been so intense, is because personally, all of us have been going through so much. It's kind of hard to describe because it's like chaos with everybody having their the personal planets interacting in such a way. Dog is barking. She wants to protect everybody. See, that's another thing is that my dog has just been on high alert for like so long, and I just feel bad because the planets affect her too. Poor thing. And there's a lot going on outside because it's Thanksgiving. So, yeah, because I don't know if the recording is picking her up. That's funny. All right, where was I? I've got to talk about the moon going into Aries because that's just gonna feel um like fire. It's gonna feel like coming up for air after being sort of like in a fog. Because especially with all of the family holiday stuff, and maybe something is gonna, I don't know. See, individually, everybody is different with the way that they feel about the moon and Aries. But this point is becoming primed. I guess that's my point. This 0 point of Aries is being primed for when, Saturn and Neptune come and meet on it next year. And with the moon coming by there, it's like we all personally, individually get a little taste of what is it's going to be about. And so one of the things to notice about the moon being at the 0 point of Aries is how, how does it make you feel? What kind of events happen? What is trying to get your attention? Uh, this is on Saturday at like 5, yeah, at 5 o'clock Pacific. And so um, this is a point, the 0 point is where we want to notice. This is how um, this is how we bring in the wisdom for what the planets are bringing to us by paying attention when there is the like the prequel to the event. Yeah. Certain things are going on here already. I'm just waiting for Saturn and Neptune to get there. Um, and the moon and is in a trine with Venus, with Neptune being in a trine with Venus right before Venus goes into Sagittarius. Um, there is some last moments of investigating and transformating, and transformation of our values. So there is interesting the investigative um, things that are coming out on the world stage. And then we all personally have things going on. It's funny. I knew this was going to be hard to do on Thanksgiving, but I'm going with it. So the moon, I mean, sorry. So Venus making that trine with um not just so Venus is making a trine to Neptune and an opposition to Uranus before moving into Sagittarius. And I feel like our values are really going to have a moment on Saturday. And it could be something financial, um, busts out. I know that Bitcoin has been going down, and so maybe something happens like with that, because of the connection with Uranus. But Uranus and Taurus going retrograde is going to be reflecting something about our financial institution because it's like a final uh, retrograde into Taurus. And Taurus is about our resources, like land and actual, like physical resources. And Venus is the ruler of Taurus. And she's over here in Scorpio, and she's been doing some very deep investigative work. And her purpose and goal is to transform uh, using the investigation that she just dug up. And so, that it'll be interesting because something will come to light. I believe that when, um, let's move her forward, when Venus makes it into Sagittarius, that there will probably be a big um, event that has to do with our finances, our money, because she just, ended that big, uh, intense investigation with Mercury going retrograde, Mercury going prograde, and then retrograde, and then, you know, there has been a lot, you know. It's like the planets have been pouring over the records, and there will be a report. It may not be exactly when Venus goes into Sagittarius, but when we see Mercury, because Mercury goes direct on Saturday, let's see, I already skipped back that, but Mercury does go direct on Saturday also. So we're looking at a couple planets going direct this week, which will bring a little bit of relief um, to the world stage. And relief doesn't always look like peace and harmony. It means results. Because I think that at this time and age, people are looking for results um, to investigations, right? That's essentially what a lot of the people want right now. They want things to be looked into, and they want a report given on their uh, preferred investigation. And so it'll be interesting to see the timing of the end of this month. Now, there has been some really tragic things happening um, prior to this week. And so, part of what we're going to be seeing play out this next week that I'm doing this astrology report for are the, consequences for these events, these like tragic events. the National Guards people that were shot. There'll be consequences for that in one way or another. And the people are getting really on fire about what these consequences should be. And that could be part of what is transforming, part of the values that are transforming in our culture. Um, I think it's going to be a time of some changes that people don't understand that they're really pushing for. But what is a proper consequence for um, purposefully shooting at a couple of people that are, it's just their job to guard over stuff, right? It's tragic. It's super tragic. And unfortunately, we have to decipher whether or not we're being lied to about things or not. Are there lies? Is there deception? That's part of what Mercury and Scorpio is still investigating. And with Mercury going direct, and um, we've got all the planets piling up in Sagittarius, and Mercury will be joining that. We'll be seeing more truth due to all of this Scorpio action that we just had. Because the stuff that's being found out in Scorpio doesn't come out until later. And Scorpio, the archetype is about secrecy, darkness, not letting people in, just not letting people in on what your plans are. And that's why when the planets all start leaving Scorpio, that's when the light starts pouring in, the awakenings, that spark of knowing, and that's, wisdom that comes in. And um, sometimes you have to make mistakes in order to earn that wisdom, right? So those are the things that, um, the gist of Sagittarius season this year is going to be about learning from our mistakes. Because they'll, we've been looking deeply into, uh, we've been looking into the darkness and the dark places during Scorpio season. And, there's been promises made during Scorpio season. And like I said, we'll see what comes of it. And as Sagittarius season starts unfolding more and more, we'll probably actually start seeing these, more reports coming out. And so Monday, we have the the moon trines Mars very, very early in the morning and squares Jupiter, and then goes void, of course, until going into Taurus. So this late Aries moon is making contact, a square with Jupiter, and a trine with um, Mars over here. Yeah, that is like possibly a trigger point for a something large, something exaggerated. We have possibly an exaggerated uh, sentiment around, because we've got the moon conjuncting Chiron and Eris here too. It's a, mm, this could be one of those days on Monday, December 1st, where people are, where something happens actually that is triggering for people's wounding around being left out. Yeah, yeah. Because, after the moon goes into Taurus, the moon makes a square with Pluto. And I feel like when, the moon is interacting with Pluto, it's hard to not have fear creep up and creep in. There we go. Moon in Taurus on Monday night. Yes. And squaring Pluto in Aquarius. Yeah. So, there's the moon goes past Chiron and the wounding comes up again. The moon goes in a square with Pluto, and it's like you're back to square one with your fear again. And what are you going to do with that? Maybe it's a breakthrough moment. Maybe individually, personally, you have a breakthrough moment with regards to your fear. Yeah. We'll have the sun in conjunction with Black Moon Lilith that day. And so there will be a light being shined on the repressed part of you. You know, how does your light get clouded by, like a, a blind area in your life? Like, how do you get blindsided in life? If you can figure that out for once, like ever, it'll be a major breakthrough. And that could be part of what is brewing for Monday, December 1st. Because you could say that every time the moon has an interaction with Pluto, you're gonna feel fear. But it's also an opportunity to have a breakthrough with your fear. You can't work through it or learn anything about it or gain any wisdom unless you're like actively going through something, actively, um, you know, if something doesn't get brought up, right? then you're just gonna like not look at it because people don't like looking at things in the shadow unless it comes up. And so this day where we've got the sun and Black Moon Lilith conjunct, and we've got the moon in a square or fixed square with Pluto, that's quite the opportunity for a breakthrough, a hard break. Very, mm, and it would be quite meaningful because it means that you did the work for it. It didn't just like fall into your lap. And really, the only thing that's going on Tuesday is going to be that mm, Venus makes a sextile to Pluto, which is an opportunity. Again, talking about an opportunity for dealing with your fear, which shrouds your, you know, soul intention. Fear will shroud your mission in life, right? Um, we all know the idea of getting to the end of our lives and regretting that we didn't do this or that, right? And when fear gets brought up before, like well before we're on our deathbed, gives us an opportunity to shift our values so that maybe we can face those fears and not feel like we didn't make any progress in this lifetime. It seems like a very simple day on Tuesday. There's an opportunity to shift your values that have been holding back or, holding you back because of fear. There are lots of little things that go into why you have like a big concept of fear and chipping away at those things. It just means like transforming this, transforming that, one thing after another. Just take one thing at a time. And that's what uh, Venus sextiling Pluto is essentially like inviting you to do, is to just kind of take one thing at a time and see how far you can take yourself facing that fear. It doesn't have to be all the way to the edge and jumping over. It's just a little nudge towards healing. Very simple. Very simple, right? You just have to say yes when the opportunity arises for some healing, facing our fears. And then we end up on Wednesday where the moon opposes Mercury, and then like early in the morning, and then it comes into a conjunction with Uranus. I'm a little bit ahead of that. Let's see. Go back a little bit. There, the conjunction with Uranus. Um, since Uranus is going backwards, retrograde, um, there is a element to Uranus that is about, you know, um, Uranus wants you to bring more freedom into the area of your life that Taurus is in, what house Taurus is in. If you know what house Taurus is in, then you know what area of your life that Uranus is asking you to inject a little bit of freedom. Um, and Uranus will make it happen. So there is an element to like why Uranus is so disruptive. And there might be some disruption um, that you like feel internally. It may not be something that actually happens, but it could be a disruption inside of you, inside of your um, body, because you might be like feeling it in your body where you need to bring more freedom. Uh, it was like, Uranus is the revolutionary. And so if you aren't living revolutionary um, ideas out, then Uranus is going to make you see it. And this very passing, quick passing, the moon passes by Uranus, but it gives us a chance to feel into where do we need to bring more freedom. Um, it could be that you need to free yourself from some of your burden of objects, because Taurus likes to kind of like hoard things, the nice things and all that stuff. And so maybe, um, you know, just giving away things that you don't need anymore. It could be asking you to just quit hoarding something. Again, which house this is happening in for you personally in your natal chart will bring more clarity to where the revolution is happening because it's happening. And being in Taurus, it's especially retrograde in Taurus, one last time for our lifetimes. Um, it's bringing a feeling into your body. You're gonna know where it lives inside your body. Uranus brings an element of knowing also. So there could be a spontaneous knowing of something on Wednesday. Um, because right there, the moon conjuncts Uranus and then goes into Gemini. And so it's like a spontaneous knowing that comes through your body. This is a really quite a magical moment to take advantage of if you have um if you have some time to really just consider feeling into your body and receiving that knowing, receiving that spontaneous information. Uh, it may not even be something that you're conscious of yet, but if you are able to let it in, it'll make itself known eventually. And yeah, I think that we'll end there because on Thursday there's a full moon in Gemini next Thursday, and I'll make a video about that. But yeah, this week is going to be I just it, it's not like, oh, it's an easy week or a hard week, it's not as simple as that. but things are leading up to magical moments. And reminding ourselves that we do have magical moments, even though there seems to be chaos happening all around us. That's where we bring our power back into our body, our decisions, um, because we don't want to be making choices that are not good for us right now. You know, just get back in, you make a bad decision, gets back into that karmic loop. And right now is a really good time to be thinking about um, how how have you transformed this year? We'll be coming into the very last month of the year, and it's a good time to look at what things have changed about you, what has transformed, what goals you have for transforming next year. You're transforming yourself for next year, because there's a lot of um, just a lot of opportunity for a shift and fighting against it, and the idea of wanting things to be different than they really are is not going to get you to those magical moments. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna stop sharing this, and I hope that everybody has a really nice week, a nice Thanksgiving, and I will see you next week. Bye bye.